Welcome to a super special vinyl happy hour. Happy St. Paddy's Day to you. Thank you so much for watching this. I'm having a lot of fun because I'm doing a little extra video to celebrate this holiday. I'm Skylar Davis. I'm owner of Culture Shock Clothing and Records here in Rockford, Illinois. I already started with a little Irish whiskey here to celebrate the holiday that's upon us. So I'm enjoying that green spot. But I'm going to be talking about some records. We actually have a ton of records coming into the store and a lot of great records to talk about this week. So we're actually going to part up the videos and do 2 videos this week. Usually we just do 1 a week. This is our vinyl happy hour where we like to kind of give you a little education, a little information, a little breakdown on what's interesting about some of the special releases coming out and also some of the special limited indie store exclusives. My shirt is a little indication that St. Paddy's Day, talking about Green Day, so I am going to talk about that. But I'm also finding a way to slice in some jazz and kind of talk about some other fun stuff here and talk about what a gold rush all the vinyl has been. So those are just a lot of hints for you as to what's going on. Besides my Green Spot Irish whiskey I'm enjoying, Lauren and I actually went to Trader Joe's, first time for me ever, got some Golden Vale Irish cream and some coffee liqueur. So double videos of the week. I get double drinks for St. Paddy's Day today. That is a sweet one. So I just want to talk about something kind of from my personal collection, kind of an oddball fun one. How can we talk about jazz also, plus some of these other special releases, and celebrate St. Paddy's Day somehow? Well, thanks to our good friend Rufus Harley, this is a very kind of strange, odd jazz record because of all instruments, he's actually playing bagpipes on this album. Have you ever heard of a bagpipe jazz player before? I doubt it. I mean, I really hadn't either. So bagpipes are something you don't see in a lot of music or in recorded music outside of your traditional folk or your Irish or Scottish music, it seems like, or outdoor festivities and festivals and things like that, which unfortunately there's not a lot of that yet going on this year. But this record is pretty deep, actually, pretty interesting. So once you get over the strange novelty of this Philly dude from the 60s, you know, playing bagpipes and stuff like that, keep in mind he also does play some other instruments. So the first side is him playing bagpipes with a full jazz band. So there's also some piano and drums, but he does a tribute to Courage, which is actually a tribute to JFK. He'd been inspired during the funeral procession for JFK when he had been killed, and wrote a song. And there's also traditional Swing Low Sweet Chariot song for Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, and About Train, in respect and honor to one of his mentors, John Coltrane. So it is actually a pretty cool jazz piece, but I was like, when else can I listen to this album or talk about this bagpipe jazz album but on St. Paddy's Day? Let's bust out my t-shirt now and let's talk about Green Day. This is another release coming out this week. So we're going to be doing 2 videos. These releases I'm going to be talking about are available on our website at cultureshockshop.com. So please go check that out in the link. Also, if you love these videos we're doing every week and some of the interesting stuff we're showing off and talking about, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us with what we're doing and kind of expanding the store and also doing some fun stuff online with our website and of course on YouTube here for our Vinyl Happy Hour videos. But dating myself here because this really cool version of Insomniac, you can see it's a very foily cover or hologrammy cover, whatever you want to call it. This is a new limited edition version of the 25th anniversary of Insomniac. But what's really cool about it, besides the jacket itself, is it's a double LP, but you get the remastered version of the regular Insomniac album, and then the second album has an unreleased live set, live in Prague. And the D side, which has no music on it, is actually etched. So I don't know if, Lauren, you can see on the screen there, but you actually have the etching of the album artwork on the D side. So it's a really cool way to use up that space on the record and give us something interesting. I had never heard this. Unfortunately, I don't have the other album, the regular version, to compare this to. It sounds really great, though, and the live stuff sounds good, too. But I actually don't have this album, so it was really nice to listen to it. A little throwback to my childhood or teenagehood, whatever you want to call it. I remember going to Shopko, looking on the wall of CDs at the time. They didn't have records, and Media Play is where I usually got my records. So I got that CD when it came out, and I was like, oh, brain stew, and like, oh God, there's just so many songs that I played the heck out of in this. Gee, Armitage Shanks, yeah, just everything. Geek Stink Breath, so many good songs. So it was really fun to hear this and see that this is coming out, the 25th anniversary of that. Right now I'm going to give you kind of a little breakdown education on some jazz albums that have some indie exclusives and some reissues and older albums for this video. On my next video, we're going to talk about brand new releases and new indie store exclusives. There's just so much vinyl. Like I said, well, usually for St. Patty's Day, we talk about Irish bands, we talk about Thin Lizzy, we've got some of that, but this gold rush that's going on for vinyl includes Neil Young's gold rush. See, we got the gold rush for St. Patty's Day. So they also did this kind of holographic cover of it. This is my original pressing of it. This is the 50th anniversary of this album. And I love how just slightly in the artwork, they actually say Neil Young Gold Rush 50 is actually in the artwork for it too, which usually when there's an anniversary edition, the artwork is totally unmodified. Forgot the name of the person who did the artwork with Neil Young, but he had worked with Neil Young on many albums. So it's very different looking from the original, but it's not even that different because it's really different about being a box set. Because it's in this big old thick box set, and you get an unreleased 7-inch record with 2 songs from it, and the poster has the lyrics and artwork. I also love how Neil Young is very serious about his sound quality and his masters and his tapes and all of his recordings. So it actually does tell you that this is a sound source master from the original analog tapes right on there. These are a limited edition, and there's numbering. There's like gold foil numbering on the back of each box set. There's a little pricier one that's $100, but I've seen a lot of these other albums, that they did, like the Rolling Stones or other albums that have come out at a $100 price point, and it was just the album and stuff. So this is a true analog pressing with a box set with a nice, replica of it, being done with a new style of artwork. But that is a little pricey one for sure, so watch out for that. A lot of other pressings I know are more in the $25, $35 price range, but this one is a lot more elaborate, has a lot more with it. So that one is available. It's limited numbered, so it'll probably sell out. But I did want to talk about some jazz stuff. Like I said, Neil Young is very concerned about his sound quality, sound recordings, and that's what's really cool about a lot of these jazz albums. And originals have been so scarce and so hard to find. Luckily, a lot of them are getting reissued. I'm going to talk about some Miles Davis special ones. A lot of people think about Blue Note records, Blue Note, and stuff. But what's funny, and talking about Miles Davis, of course, he really didn't record much on Blue Note. So this was like some of his first stuff in the 50s or whatever he'd recorded on Blue Note. And some of their first 12-inch records that had come out were Miles Davis records. But he didn't really do a lot, because a few years after he'd been with Blue Note, he ended up being with Columbia Records. And of course, Kinda Blue is the big jazz album that a lot of people talk about. But what a lot of people don't realize is that Kinda Blue, you've got, of course, John Coltrane playing with him. Bill Evans actually ended up playing piano after Red Garland, but Paul Chambers. So these guys that had been playing with his band had actually been with him when he was on Prestige Records. So there is this special limited version. Oops, I had one out here ready to go. So he did all these records when he was with Prestige, and this actually started when the pandemic began, but these were the 70th anniversary of Prestige. They actually did some of Miles Davis Quintet's albums on blue translucent vinyl. So these were only for independent record stores, and they actually replicate the original Prestige jazz label. They call this like the Fireworks label, all these little yellow and black squigglies. So it's kind of a replica of the original Prestige label in clear blue vinyl. You don't see a lot of jazz getting color vinyl reissues, and you especially don't see a lot of bigger artists or jazz artists getting these special releases that are only available to independent record stores. So that's what's really cool is this Think Indie record label put together these special set of releases. Actually, we need to show off the whole set because you got Working with Miles Davis Quintet, there's Cooking with, and I love this real kind of mid-century modern simplistic, this almost looks early Andy Warholish or something kind of strange. There's Steamin' with the Miles Davis Quintet, and Relaxin' with. So all 4 of these come out within a year of each other, and they're all on Prestige Records. But the story about what happened with these in the 50s was Miles Davis Quintet had done a live show and had been approached by the bigwig from Columbia Records, and they wanted to sign it to do work on Columbia Records. Well, he was pretty friendly with the folks at Prestige Records, so he actually, amazingly, so these albums too, if you haven't heard them, like I said, please experience some different jazz, some different players. because if you're, you know, only familiar with like Kind of Blue or whatever, half of those guys worked on this album before Kind of Blue. They worked on all of these albums because these were actually all recorded, believe it or not, all 4 of these in 2 one-day sessions at Prestige Records. It's amazing the amount of jazz that came out of there. Classics. These are like some of the most cool hard bop jazz records you can get your hands on. And they recorded this all in just a matter of a couple of sessions. And that actually is what got him out of his contract with Prestige. So he talked to them and said, hey, I'm going to Columbia Records or whatever, or something else came up. And he had 5 record contracts still, I guess, due with Prestige. So he, you know, they culled together one from some other recordings, I think, and then these 4 albums all got released. I think they were still coming out after he had already left the label. But it's just amazing that these guys went together, you know, these great, tight jazz players all went together and just smoothly put out these recordings. Like I said, finding originals of these, each one of these in decent shape is $100. Most are going to be, at this point in time with the gold rush going on in vinyl, a couple hundred or more a piece, sometimes several hundred. It's seriously that hard to get a good copy of these original recordings. Although there have been a couple reissues, these sound really great. These are mono pressing, and I think you're going to be quite happy with them while they're around. We probably aren't going to have many more of the clear blue vinyl like this, so get them while you can if you want to get that. I think it's really unique that they are doing indie store exclusives of these classic albums. Of course, Kind of Blue, you can still get reissues of that and stuff like that. We have mono and stereo and some of the Blue Note stuff. But I just think that, you know, looking beyond just Blue Note records and looking just beyond Miles Davis records, there's so many of these players. Oh, of course, Coltrane has 20 or 30 other great albums and recordings that he worked on. Philly Joe Jones, great drummer, super solid, real snazzy too. I wanted to show off this other album I have now. These ones are available in the store and on our website right now. But I have this other kind of really rare, cool jazz record from the 50s. This was on Time Records, Booker Little. But I just love this minimal artwork. And I've always thought, every time I see this, it reminds me of this album cover. This is actually, Reed Miles put this album together, and he's the one who worked on the Blue Note records. And I love the way he plays with letters and words. Like, look at this little Miles, or Cookin' with the Miles Davis Quintet, like just the way he spaces off the lettering and jumps them off the line. But this red and white horn drawing, stuff like that, it's just so cool. And that's what's so cool about these records, getting the covers, hearing the albums, seeing who plays on it. Like even this album's got Roy Haynes on drums and Wynton Kelly playing keys, who also worked with a lot of these other guys. But I want to show like some of these guys now. This is the great way for me to read jazz and to see jazz and to go experiment something different. Because Philly Joe Jones and Paul Chambers, who played on all these records and Kind of Blue and stuff like that, also played on some other Blue Note stuff. This is Blue and Sentimental from Quebec. Now, this is also cool because if you want to play around, I love that a jazz record, even if you don't want to, you know, listen to it ahead of time or just pick it up on a whim, I love that it lists out who's playing on almost all the records and what they're playing. So here's some more. St. Patty's Day, we'll throw it in because you've got Grant Green playing guitar on here. He's also got usually a pretty silky, smooth, cool guitar sound, just really chill. This is another one of these Blue Note records I was talking about, these analog pressings. This is a lot later though, so this was probably 1970 because a lot of these great jazz players, while they were still in their great hype era, were recorded live, luckily. And there's some great live shows. This one was recorded in New Jersey, I think 1970, so it's a lot later. And then you've also got Grant Green playing with Idris Muhammad, some other guys who just, you know, played around with all these other guys. But the live feel of this is really cool, and Grant Green even gets a little funkier sounding here on this one, because this is a little bit after your bop era and stuff like that. So if you want guitar, if you just want horns, if you want organ, that's what's so cool, is to experiment with all these jazz albums. And the pressings quality is just so awesome. Let's see, who else? Philly Joe Jones, he also played. So this is a series of the Blue Note. We were talking about the 80th anniversary, and it is just a single, like a rather thickish cardboard sleeve. Nothing great, but it does the job. It's not bad. And then the vinyl is all analog pressed on these. Even though you don't have a big hype stick or anything about it, these sound amazing. They're from the original analog Blue Note tapes. Now, for a few dollars more, there's only a couple a month coming out from these, but they are doing this thing called the Blue Note Tone Poet series. This is the series I've been hyping and saying that we're selling out of, and you need to get your hands on when you can. Because again, you've got Philly Joe Jones playing on this. This is a much lesser known album, but also very smooth, snazzy, just a great playing album. But these Tone Poet series, they do this really cool, super thick, glossy jacket gatefold. So you got your artwork on the front as usual, your write-up on the guys on the back, but the gatefold has photo shoots and extra photos on release from the recording in the studio at Rudy Gelder's studio. And they're super static-free in these nice plastic static-free sleeves to keep your record nice and smooth, scratch-free. But you can see this is a big, thick, heavy gatefold. And it's just a few bucks more. So it's really cool that they're doing this series and highlighting not just your, your Grant Greens and your Herbie Hancocks, which they are doing some of those, but Tina Brooks, another great tenor sax player, playing with a trumpet player, Kenny Drew piano, and a bass player, and Philly Joe Jones, classic drummer, who did a lot of stuff with Miles, and I think even Coltrane and all those guys too. Played on so many great albums, so he played with all these other lesser-known jazz players. Go out, take a chance on these. Gosh, even check out our used section. I was just... Speaking of a gold rush, I was reading up on some of these guys, and there was an album I never heard of, or lesser known than Tina Brooks even. I found this in our used section. I can't believe it hadn't been purchased. Booker Irvin, I guess you can easily pass it over because it doesn't have this cool look, like with these cool photos and cool colors of some of the classic Blue Note records. But these are the Blue Note reissue series, and a lot of these had never been released during the original 50s and 60s era of Blue Note. This is later 60s, and when they did get released, not a lot of people knew about them, or they got released like this, like kind of cheesy double LP. These are actually selling for quite a bit of money now, and I'm surprised that nobody had picked this up in our store. But you've got guys playing on this, Horace Parlan, who also did a lot of other, he was a leader on some other Blue Note things, and Grant Green on guitar again. This is a little more far out though, a little more experimental, a little more of the modal jazz and stuff like that, and really enjoyed it though. But to look up to see what buying these two separate albums would cost original pressings is crazy, so it's nice to find a good affordable one. I actually like the packaging like this, having the two records in one. The sound quality and pressing on this stuff, probably not as good, and there's just a little bit of surface noise. This is going back to the 80s, but I like the music on here. The music's a lot more interesting than a lot of the other Blue Note releases to me, so you kind of got your give and your take. Hey, I like it, I love the music. I wish that they had done, back in the 80s when they were doing reissues, something as quality as this, because I think this thing would have held its value like crazy. So I really appreciate that they are still bringing out all these classic albums, anything from Neil Young to Miles Davis to Tina Brooks to whatever. So this is just kind of my little reissue wrap up, having a little St. Patty's Day. Double drinks for St. Patty's Day. Be responsible, stay at home, enjoy your records, watch our videos. Please check out some of our previous videos if you haven't. We've got a whole series of Vinyl Happy Hour. We've been doing this for 4 years, talking about different releases every week and busting into a few holy grails and a few personal records along the way. Having lots of fun doing it. What is all this stuff? I think we already talked about that. So yeah, we're gonna do another video tomorrow and talk about some brand new releases. Some of these new releases are also indie store exclusive, special limited versions or colors you can only buy from your favorite independent record store like Culture Shock. So check those out on our website or stop into the store. We hope to see you soon. Cheers guys, we'll see you tomorrow.